All Hallows Eve, or the origins of Halloween. And I guess, as we all know, many people have these different issues around Halloween, ghosts, goblins, and everything. But Halloween actually started as a religious holiday. It was the church decided to have they created All Saints Day, and they changed it from May to November because the festival of the harvest, which was considered a pagan festival, was being attended by church folk. So they figured if they had this All Saints Day, it would take away from that attendance, and it backfired on the church. And what the church wanted was All Saints Day is a celebration of dead Christians, and the people were more in tune to this festive, fun festival that was honoring all ancestors. So it kind of backfired on the church and became this thing of ghosts and goblins and vampires and of the devil, when in actuality the different costumes and things are just people having fun. But it started out as a church holiday that was created to keep Christians at that time from participating in what was considered a pagan ritual or festival, the festival of the harvest.
Festival of the harvest, and that was a Celtic holiday, correct?
Yes, that was the holiday that was practiced by the Celtics, the Celtics were people that were descendants of the early Romans.
Okay. And wasn't their point of the festival to scare away the that were open to come into our plane on that day?
Say that again. I'm not hearing you.
I believe that their harvest celebration included the dressing up as spirits to detour the evil spirits that were able to cross over into the plane on that day.
Yeah, it was dressing up to scare the evil spirits away, and the church leaders saw that as being anti-religious, anti-Christ, and they created something because they saw all of their followers participating in this festival. They created something to take away from it, and it actually backfired on them.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of things backfired on them.
I'm sorry?
I was saying a lot of things backfired on the early church.
Do you think that Halloween is demonic, as a lot of people say?
No, I don't think anything is demonic unless you make it demonic. If you give it demonic authority, then it becomes demonic. It was basically done, as you say, to scare away the evil spirits if you believed in them. But it was a festival. It was a fun time. There's nothing demonic about it. Some people have taken it to that extreme and do some really ridiculous things that I guess you could describe as demonic, but being possessed and stuff like that, no, I don't think it's that. No, I've never seen it that way. Even as a kid, I didn't see that.
No, I don't think that it's something that's demonic, but I do think that within terms of culture and then, different cultures coming together and, all of these different things meshing together, as far as we have it in our society, it's been something that's kind of been demonized for the most part. Because from what
that's a good word.
I have from what I see in I have my encyclopedia here, and it was saying that at least part of it, from what I can gather, was that they celebrated the coming of the winter and the changing of the season, and kind of like the the cold weather and what have you. So I think that's part of the tradition of Halloween. And I also think that, too, when people say the word pagan, whether they may say, well, it's a pagan holiday. But the word pagan actually means rural dweller, one who would dwell in the countryside. So
in the countryside, right.
You have to understand that these people they were close to nature. So, they were observers of nature, and they paid attention to it and all these different things, and they understood the cycles of, the moon and certain seasons and all of those particular things.
And they celebrated those changes with big festivals.
Right.
And go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, they, like you said, they were close to Earth, Mother Earth, or however you want to call it, and they celebrated the changes that the seasons. When the season changed, they had these big festivals, and the early church leaders resented the fact that their followers were participating in these festivals. So they created something to take away from it, but instead of taking from it, the people just began to incorporate the two. All Hallows Eve became, the Eve, just like Christmas Eve, the Eve, the day before, the night before, All Saints Day, or the Feast of All Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has evolved into a lot of things. But I think today most people see it as just a time of fun and dressing up and just living out what a fantasy or something it's fun. And we somehow have allowed some people to take the fun out of an event. As simple as that for me.
I agree with that. Now, I was reading about the history of Halloween and didn't know that trick-or-treat was a threat. Like, they used to go up to people and, they'd say, you better give me a treat or I will do, like, a mean trick to you. And people would end up in the morning having to find their wagon wheels or their wagon or their fences or, whatever the kids took and hid somewhere. And that was how it started. So it was all, that was here in North America anyway, like Canada.
Right.
So that's how it started here. It was all fun and games, and nobody really got hurt, and there was nothing really bad done, just tricks. So, but they wouldn't even publicize that in the United States when that was going on in Canada. They didn't really publicize that at all until the 1930s in the United States. So they did take a lot of the fun out of it.
Yeah, because they were just mischievous pranks that, as was said by their rural folk or country folk, and it was not anything ghoulish or demonic about it. And, it has evolved for some people into the point that they don't allow their children to participate. And if I wasn't going to let a child of mine participate today, it would be for safety reasons and not because of any of those other attributes that have been attached to it.
Yeah,
and
they
even
did
then I
a
would
lot
have
of stuff.
a party. Yeah.
I mean, it's when Harry Potter first came out, it was a huge stink over,
Yes.
whether or not that was demonic or not, because they were doing magic and stuff. And, anytime they can point a finger and say, that's evil, we can be sure that that's evil, that they feel better. So, I think Halloween, with all the horror movies, the vampires, the ghouls, and the goblins, sort of turned into that. But, if you look at it, even from the flip side, you've got things that some people would say shouldn't naturally frighten people. Ghosts and ghouls and goblins, werewolves and vampires and stuff. And here you have little kids with absolutely no fear going out and turning it into something like Claude said, a fun holiday where they can laugh, they can get candy, they can dress up. And even in some other countries, they really do make it so that they can honor their past loved ones. But for me, it always kind of confused me when people were pointing at it, saying, that's evil. That holiday's evil. I mean, and then they turn around and say, don't judge a book by its cover.
So there we deal with that hypocrisy again. If it's in my favor, we do it this way, but when it's not playing in my favor, it is evil. And that's a good point. Things that people don't understand or dislike, they automatically make evil.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found out, too, is they also, on Halloween, they believe that the dead would come back on, or the dead could enter back into that particular land during that day on the 31st.
Right.
I mean, do y'all think that has any? Yeah. Do y'all think that has any effect on how we look at it today, as far as them believing that the dead came back on that particular day?
Well, you see, I understood those that believed that the dead could come back were actually the Christians on All Saints' Day, thinking that as they celebrated the Eucharist, et cetera, that the dead or the saints actually manifested. And so somewhere in there, there's a cloud of that's not clear, but it appears that Christianity made that a point, the dead coming back.
Well, Elizabeth Lowman is in the chat room, and she actually pointed out that the ancient Celtics believed that the border between this world and the other world became thin on Samhain, allowing spirits both harmless and harmful to pass through. The family's ancestors were honored and invited home, while harmful spirits were warded away. So they would carve out turnips and such and stick them in the window, which are jack-o'-lanterns now, but those would, ward the evil spirits away. That's where they wore the masks and impersonated evil spirits as well. I don't know if that, I think that would be where a lot of the demonic thought came from. I think that probably a lot of the Christian people saw the pagan, the country folk, doing their rituals and thought that it was probably really weird because they dressed up like spirits, ran around town and did weird things. So I'm sure they did think that it was probably evil, and they were probably doing some sort of witchcraft. But it's probably very meaningful to those people of that Celtic history. I don't know, kind of like the like Mexico's. What is the Day of the Dead in Mexico?
The Day of the Dead, the Day of the Dead, which is the day before All Saints' Day. Again, that has been taken, and it's just been taken to the extreme, and it was usually the church leaders that got involved in it and start teaching this negativity around it because they saw their members or that part of their community participating or fascinated with it. Or if they were frightened of it and didn't understand it, instead of trying to teach it or encouraging them to find out what it was about, they began to teach these negative messages. And a lot of those negative messages are pure fabrications of someone else's mind.
I wonder if the church had anything to do with demonizing it, because here in the States we don't think about the evil side of it. We dress our kids up, little babies, and go out door to door and get candy, and that's about the fun of it, And we don't really think about the evil. So I'm wondering if the church is the one that kind of undemonized it for us.
I think the government did when they made it a holiday. Even though it's not a legal holiday in the U.S. It's on all the calendars, so it's recognized as a national day of celebration of some type. So when the government has recognized it, I think that took away from it. But a lot of religious sects still take their people through that demonic process